Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to pop in. If you are a Facebook user, check out the Titans of Podcasts and Wrestling fan group. It is an amazing site full of all different wrestling podcasts, news, rumors, all kinds of banter going on. Check that out if you're a Facebook guy. And while you're at it, if you want to become a Patreon member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, we would love to have you. Contributions start as low as $1 to get your name shouted out in our episodes, put right into our comments section so everybody can see who our most loyal followers are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is going live at 9:05. This episode, the fan voting has been done. The tournament is over. The 256 tag team tournament is through. I will be announcing the winning tag team for the tournament later in the show. In addition, we have all sorts of stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling news, rumors, some surprises this week, as well as we will get to both the betting odds and the predictions that we have for Great Balls of Fire coming up tomorrow night on the WWE Network. If you are not a network subscriber at this point and you're a diehard wrestling fan, I'm starting to wonder if you can really call yourself a diehard fan anymore. The network offers so much that you can't get anywhere else. And I'm not getting paid to plug the network. Let me just be clear. I'm just telling you, as a raving lunatic fan that I am, I absolutely love the network. I get to sit down with one of my best friends in the whole world and watch everything you could possibly dream of from WWE whenever we get a chance to get together, and it's awesome. So, if you don't have the network yet, by all means, go out and get that, because you're hurting yourself. There's so much there. As we go throughout the show, feel free, call into the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160, and it is a talk-to-text service. So, you give us your comments, your questions, your concerns, things you want us to talk about, whatever it is, it's fine with us. You give us those there, and it will pop into the website so I can address your concerns immediately. I also get questions every week sent to me through Twitter, through my email that is located on the Fro Podcast webpage. Wherever you want to send something to me, I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. I know for those of you who are tuning in using Spreaker, there is a general area there where you can put comments. I can see them live as well. By all means, feel free to throw anything you want at me. I will try to get to anything and everything that you guys want to talk about. I want to get started, though. Before I forget, for those who are new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast and new to Going Live at 9:05, if you ever want to know what it is we're going to discuss throughout the show, we always give you a preview on our page, frolifeplanning.com/FroPodcast. On that website, you'll see the upcoming episode news and notes. You'll see our video interview series that we did, that you can click on any of the interviews that we've done. You'll see our sponsors and whatnot. So feel free to check that out if you're new to the site, or if you're a veteran and you've been on every one of our Going Live podcast episodes, we thank you, and don't forget that that's a resource we would love for you guys to be able to use at any time whenever you need it. So, go right away. I want to get into the news because there was, like I said, there was so much going on this week, and that really at the top of the forefront of the conversation is the discussion on what happened with Austin Aries this week. So, Austin Aries, you know, for those who have known him for a long time, he was in Ring of Honor, very successful. Went to Impact Wrestling, again, very successful, to the point he was world champion in Ring of Honor. He was world champion in Impact Wrestling. He comes to WWE, signs a contract with them, and for quite a while, he toiled in NXT, and it looked like they actually expected him to be a major breakout star. They put him in high-profile matches with people like Baron Corbin, had him defeat Baron Corbin. So you would think that they had the confidence in him to really establish him as a main event star. Then, when he finally does get what you might call a call-up to the main roster, he starts doing commentary. Remember, he had an issue with his eye socket. He had major surgery done because he had a serious injury while in NXT. He comes back before he's medically cleared, and he starts doing commentary. His commentary was off the charts, phenomenal. One of the best commentators I've heard in quite a while, and that includes some of the legendary ones. Austin Aries seemed like an automatic fit for the commentary booth. So then he does that for a little while, and then they move him in and bring him back into the fold as a wrestler in the Cruiserweight division. Now, when he's been gone for so long, I have absolutely not one shred of issue with them putting him in the Cruiserweight division to start his WWE career. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. He's been off TV. He does have a diehard following, but that diehard following is primarily people who are either mainstream wrestling fans of TNA and Ring of Honor, or it's the people who watch NXT. What a lot of people don't realize is this guy was an independent darling for years. He's a major international established star, and a lot of people don't know that. They haven't seen those matches. They don't always seek out those matches, but Austin Aries is a serious force in the wrestling world. So he gets to WWE, you put him into the cruiserweights, you can only have him there so long. I don't understand why they never gave him the championship over Neville. I don't know what WWE's hang-up is on Neville being this unstoppable cruiserweight, but the reality is it was only a year ago that we were watching Neville get decimated as a jobber basically on Raw. Now all of a sudden he turns heel and he gets this mean streak and he's just unstoppable in the cruiserweight division. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. No, don't get me wrong. I'm happy that he was solid for a good chunk of the time. But at some point, every champion has to fall. That's how this business works. Austin Aries would have been a fantastic cruiserweight champion. He would have been a guy who really brought legitimacy to that title. You look at his history: Ring of Honor champion, Impact Wrestling champion, Impact Tag Team champion, X Division champion. He's the kind of guy who the people who knew who he was can get behind the cruiserweight division, a program that you're trying to foster. People would have supported more had there been someone there who had a much longer, more well-known history. Neville, phenomenal talent. He's been a phenomenal talent long before he came to WWE as well. You gave him the title. Now it's Austin Aries' turn. And it didn't happen. So instead, at the end of that feud with Neville, Austin Aries made an announcement that he was going to take some time away and find himself or whatever. And what it ends up happening is, this week, Austin Aries was released from his WWE contract. So now he's gone. Now, those of us who are huge wrestling fans, we already have a suspicion he's either going to go to Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, or New Japan. Those are really the four major options. Unless he wants to stay completely away from the road and really set his own schedule, then he may go back to just doing spot shows as an independent. But his talent level is sky high. And see, when you look into the news sheets I saw on WrestleZone.com today and on eWrestling News, they were talking about Austin Aries' attitude in the back was not great. He was very frustrated that WWE saw him strictly as a cruiserweight, and that is clearly not what he is. He can go with anyone. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but back when TNA Impact Wrestling had an angle they were running, Austin Aries was hanging with Kevin Nash. If you would have booked him during that feud to beat Kevin Nash, everyone in the world would have believed it. Austin Aries, then when he left and went to Ring of Honor for a while, and he got over in Ring of Honor huge, and then when he came back to Impact Wrestling, I'll never forget, I was in the arena, they were at the Leocore Center for whatever their pay-per-view was. I want to say one of their ridiculous pay-per-views. Their names in TNA I don't really follow a whole ton anyways. But anyways, in here in Philadelphia, his music hit. He was a surprise at that pay-per-view, and that place came unglued. Everybody appreciated him. He had the Austin Aries chant going. It went through his match, into the next match, into the match after that. So, and that was before he became world champion of Impact Wrestling. So, people clearly love the guy, and he knows that, which is kind of a blessing and a curse all at the same time. Austin Aries knows that if you put him in the ring and let him go, there's nobody on the WWE roster. I don't care if it's AJ Styles, John Cena, I don't care who it is. Roman Reigns, he can put on a match with any of them. He's just as good, if not better, than many of them. I'll put AJ Styles in a separate class, but Austin Aries is every bit the hard worker that Roman Reigns is. Austin Aries could be just as much the hard worker as Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt. He is as good as any of those people, and instead he's relegated to the cruiserweight division, which frustrated him. So he has requested and been granted his release from WWE. Really frustrating for me. He got his WrestleMania moment. I think that's wonderful. Great. He could check that off his bucket list. But it's a little frustrating to know how amazing a talent is who's not going to get the opportunity to really maximize his potential because of whatever preconceived notions WWE has about independent talents coming in. So that, for me, was like the big news of the week. I'm noticing I have a question popping up here from Titletown 1978, who's asking if Kenny Omega will ever sign with WWE. Look, I don't know. I really don't know. Kenny Omega is actually built into this episode. I'm assuming that Mr. Titletown 1978, you checked the notes for tonight's show. Yeah, we'll get to the Kenny Omega stuff shortly. On the short response, I will say I'm not so sure anymore. And I'll explain that when we get to that segment. But if just to give you an immediate response, I don't know that we will ever see Kenny Omega in a WWE ring, and I'll get into greater detail with that a little bit later. Don't forget, if you're wanting to call in, leave a question or a comment for us, feel free to dial in to the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160 and send us your thoughts. I want to get back to the news. There's so many things to talk about. Chris Featherstone, who reports for eWrestling News, is eWrestling News? No, I believe he is actually on WrestleZone. Yes, he is. He's reporting the theory is that Enzo and Cass may be reunited before WrestleMania 34. That the expectation from Vince McMahon was that he could establish Cass as a main event heel, but that already Cass is not showing the mannerisms, the promo skills that a top heel needs to show. And that Enzo, who was expected to be like the cast-off during this angle, has looked so strong, and the people are totally gravitating towards Enzo. So if you can't maximize Cass the way he originally wanted to, we suspect that after he beats Enzo or whatever at the pay-per-view, and then eventually I'm assuming he'll go on to face the Big Show, because that's the other big guy on Raw's roster. After that, I don't know who you put him against. That if they haven't seen enough out of him as a heel, it may not be long before he's paired back with Enzo. I saw the theory was Enzo might be in the Royal Rumble getting beat down by a whole bunch of people. Cass will come out and then he'll reunite with Enzo and bring the team back together. That would be one booking strategy idea. I'm okay with that, actually. I look, I don't know why the 7-footers always have to be bad guys. You know, Andre the Giant made a career before he became a bad guy as being a 7-footer that the fans loved. Why does every 7-footer have to be a bad guy? You know, The Undertaker made a career of beating those 7-foot bad guys, you know, and he wasn't exactly a shrimp himself, but he wasn't as big as a lot of the guys he had to wrestle, you know, El Gigante, whatever, Giant Gonzalez, you know, people like that. So, I have no problem if they want to flip Cass back to being a face, but I'm actually glad they gave him this little heel soiree, even if it's not successful, because it freshens up the character, and for nothing else, it makes Enzo really a focal point of the show. He is one of the best promos out there. Ringside Collectibles. I know I'm not throwing out an endorsement for Ringside Collectibles. They're not paying me to say anything, but I saw they added a product and it blows my mind. You now can own for yourself a replica of Ric Flair's red and sequin robe. $74.99. You can pop on ringsidecollectibles.com and get a Ric Flair robe. I don't know about you, but as a die-hard wrestling fan my whole life, since I was about 4 years old, I'm 40 now, I have been a Ric Flair fanatic for many, many years. If I had $75 laying around, that sucker would be mine. And I would I swear to God, I would get a big piece of wood and tack it up and behind me here, and I'd start doing video casts so you guys could see me wearing that stupid robe just because that's how big a fan I am. But if you are a Ric Flair fanatic, like I may be, by all means, go out there and grab your $75 robe, you know. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm getting a comment here. Let's see if we can of course, you know, the text-to-talk line, for all that it's cracked up to be, does have its flaws. Let's see. It says, Cass as a heel. You can't teach that. Absolutely not. Wow. So true. He's just too likable. You know, and fans know that he and Carmella are an item, so it makes it even harder when people have seen this guy on Ride Along. They've seen him on that Breaking Ground episodes that they showed for NXT, showing how people make it to the main roster. Saw him out to dinner with Enzo and Carmella and Bayley, and how much of a nice guy he really is. So it's going to be tough to get him over as a bad guy. Just my opinion. Matt Hardy. There's been a lot of conversation about the Heartbroken Hardy gimmick this week. Some people say it's almost a done deal. Other people say that it's nowhere near getting done and it may never get done. He actually tweeted something today that people are like, oh, maybe. I don't even care at this point. I really don't. What I find more interesting was, and I didn't see this on any of the websites, is that Matt Hardy actually shot a birthday congratulations to Adam Cole. And in this birthday congratulatory tweet, he put something on there and said, I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon down the road. Which to me, you know how Matt Hardy likes to throw things out there and try to, mess with his Twitter followers. Is he implying Adam Cole is WWE bound? I am relatively guaranteed in my mind that WWE is going to make some kind of serious overture to Adam Cole. He's too big a star not to try to get in, and I actually hope they bring him in sooner rather than later. Simon Gotch, one of the vaudevillains, the one that got canned a few months back. His 90-day no-compete clause, it expired today. He is now Simon Grimm. That's what he'll go by on the independent scene. And here's the thing. I really hope he actually gets some push in the independents, because I felt from the minute they brought the vaudevillains to the main roster, they looked at him as like a 1990s side gimmicky tag team act, and they never took him serious as a tag team. And the reality is, for those of us who watch NXT, Simon Gotch was phenomenal in tag team wrestling in NXT. They have a whole lot more talent, he and Aiden English, than they were ever given credit for on the main roster. It's almost a slap in the face to watch and see how some of these guys come up from NXT and they're booked so incredibly horrible that they just can't get over, no matter what they do. I just got another pop-up upstairs. If you get the robe, you can't wear anything under it. Ha ha. Thank you so much. I promise you I'll be wearing something underneath it. Except I did notice that the same website had a autographed pair of blue Ric Flair trunks. And I was like, it's $400 or something like that. I would actually be tempted to put those on and put the robe on and actually do a picture, do a selfie. I'm not a selfie guy. I would think about doing that purely for the comedic input that would bring. Just saying. Brock Lesnar in the news. Brock Lesnar, as we all know, will be defending the Universal title at Great Balls of Fire. He is also scheduled to appear at SummerSlam. It was announced today that he will also be working the No Mercy pay-per-view. 3 pay-per-views in a row. That is something Brock Lesnar typically has not done, and it makes you wonder. Now, he's a lot of people suspect that he's going to win tomorrow night. He would retain the Universal title and take it to SummerSlam to face either Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns. But why the 3rd pay-per-view? The only thing that I could surmise is that at SummerSlam, no matter who he faces, he loses the Universal title and No Mercy is his rematch. That's what I see happening there. Which the scary part about that is there's no booking of Brock Lesnar after No Mercy. And that happens in late September. I want to say around the September 24th-ish. So if that happens, I think we'll see Brock Lesnar disappear from television probably until the Royal Rumble, where I expect him to be in the Rumble match so that he could be very much involved in the launching of WrestleMania season. Don't forget to call in, leave questions, comments, concerns, anything you want on the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and send us your thoughts so we can address them live on the air. And before I get going, I knew this was coming. It happens every week. This is becoming one of my favorite parts of every episode. I love the guy, and I've never even met the guy. We have a question here from our buddy, Barry Harry Larry. Barry Harry Larry, before I even get to your question, buddy, because I know you're listening, Barry Harry Larry has been here for every single episode we've done of the Going Live at 9:05. So Barry Harry Larry, you are my number one right now. I know, and by the way, Barry Harry Larry, you're not a Patreon member yet. I just want to spit that out there. Somebody else is going to beat you to it, but the fact that you tune in every single week and you always add substance to the show means a lot to me. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. You're awesome. He is asking if I think GFW, Global Force Wrestling, will punish Alberto I started to say that out of habit. Alberto El Patron, because I got to go that way now, if he continues to blast WWE. Wow. You guys keep looking at my notes. I know you are, because I'm going to be talking about that too, but I don't know. I think it's really depends. For those who don't know what we're talking about, after the Slammiversary pay-per-view, when the cameras stopped rolling, there was some issue with Impact Wrestling's management, who were frustrated because Alberto El Patron grabbed the mic and started doing his hardcore shoot interview on WWE. And, I know they're a rival promotion, but Impact Wrestling and Anthem, they seem like they're a class act, and they don't want to be associated with his profanity-laden promos that are all anti-WWE. They understand that some of their talent, including him, come from WWE. So blasting the promotion and knocking their talent kind of is hypocritical. It's just my opinion. So they had told him he couldn't do that. So for those who like spoilers, and I'm not going to give you all these spoilers, just for the record, for anybody who wants to go look them up, Impact Wrestling taped multiple episodes that'll take them all the way through August 13th this week. And when they did that, at the end of a couple of the episodes, he was shooting off some promos, and one was more adult content filled, and then the next one was more PG, and then the next one was like, infantile and babyish. So, feel free, go on to any of the major news sites, whether it's eWrestling News, WrestleZone, Wrestling Inc., F4W Online, PWI Online, whatever it is, they're all decent sites. Pop on and go ahead and check out those spoilers, because there's some really cool stuff coming to Impact Wrestling. For those who watched Impact Wrestling, and I had not planned to talk about a lot about Impact, but for those who watched Impact this week, great episode, fantastic episode. I will say this, and I had planned on talking about this, their viewership off the charts this week, back close to 400,000 viewers, which is up almost 40% from the previous week, all on the post-Slammiversary episode of Impact Wrestling. And what's bizarre about that to me is Impact Wrestling, with their lack of huge following, like they don't get millions of viewers every week like WWE. The people who do watch Impact Wrestling, I feel like, have to be the real hardcore wrestling fans. And those people typically tune in and do read the spoilers. So those people already know who's going to win the matches on the show, yet there's 400,000 of them still tuning in because the matches have been that good. If you are not watching Impact Wrestling, you are missing out. GFW Impact Wrestling by Anthem is actually a really good product. They have a lot of talent. I blogged about this on that news outlet that I write for, TSJ Sports, thesportsjunkies101.com. I blogged about it there. I did a podcast episode about it here. I think people are missing the boat on Impact Wrestling. They are fantastic lately. So if you're not watching them, please check them out. I'm going to get going with some more of the news. Billy Gunn is in the news this week. If for those who are tuned in to watch the G1 Climax USA specials for New Japan Pro Wrestling, Billy Gunn was on the first night. He was in an 8-man tag team match, and he looked great. I'll be perfectly honest with you. When Billy Gunn wrestled in WWE back in the 90s, I never thought he was a very big guy. But now that he's wrestling in New Japan, where some of the guys really aren't as big, and he's standing next to him, he looks like a giant next to some of those guys. But he was booked to do the team match on night one, and then he was going to challenge Hiroshi Tanahashi for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship on night two. For me, as a longtime wrestling fan, I love the match. I know that Billy Gunn can go in the ring. He has all the ability. He should have at one point been a world champion. That's how good he really is. Now, the reality is a lot of the fans in the building and a lot of people online are reacting, saying Billy Gunn wasn't worthy of a shot at the Intercontinental Championship, and it was kind of like bad booking, and he's getting a lot of negative press for that. I have a problem with that for two reasons. One, it's Billy freaking Gunn. It's the A-man, This is the guy who really helped solidify D-Generation X with his tag team partner, the Road Dogg. Once Shawn Michaels left, if it wasn't for those two, we may never have had some of the WCW Invasion stuff. So this guy's impact on wrestling is huge. He comes back all those years later, goes to WWE and has another tag team championship run as the New Age Outlaws. He goes down. He's a huge training influence at the Performance Center. He gets let go by WWE. Now he's doing this New Japan thing, and he can still go. He looks like a 25-year-old wrestler in the ring still. So if you don't like the fact that he doesn't wrestle a full-time schedule and he was given a championship opportunity, you were doing an American debut, a U.S. debut. You got to put somebody there that has brand name recognition. Now, here's the other reason I have an issue. When they did the market studies, the market research on the show, the first two shows, the market research doesn't lie. Billy Gunn was one of the biggest pops of the night. He was one of the highest ratings getters of the night. It wasn't because he was in a ring with Tanahashi. They ask people those questions when they do surveys. It was because people can identify with Billy Gunn because he's a familiar face. People who were in attendance who didn't like it, people who were over in Japan who didn't like it, you need to understand what they're trying to do here. They're trying to build a brand that will last and have integrity and bring premium viewership to. You put them, the New Japan Wrestling product on a premium network, a legitimate network, like, say, a Spike TV or something like that, their viewership will skyrocket. They'll blow Impact Wrestling out of the water, and Ring of Honor will be an afterthought. Right now they're stuck on Access Television. Billy Gunn's the kind of guy who can help lend some of that credibility. So, just my opinion, I think people were overreacting to Billy Gunn getting a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. You knew Tanahashi wasn't going to lose the title either way. Not at the first show. Not as big a star as he is. On the topic of people who wrestled at those New Japan shows, Cody Rhodes the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, the one who challenged Kazuchika Okada. He actually got injured at the pay-per-view. He has an issue with his shoulder, but he's going to work through the pain. Has done something absolutely bizarre. He went to an all-pro wrestling show where he was scheduled to compete against the Mac. If you are a fan of Lucha Underground, Willie Mack, even if you go all the way back to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Willie Mack is a great wrestler. He uses the Stone Cold Stunner as his finishing hold. He's kind of a... He's an athletic African-American gentleman who has got a little bit of a paunch belly, but he's a solid in-ring performer. And so the two are scheduled to have their match. It's one of the people Cody really wanted to work with. And the Mac comes out and he tells him he wants Cody to put the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line at the All-Pro Wrestling show, which Cody Rhodes accepts. I'm sure the people at Ring of Honor would have been like having a fit if they knew Cody Rhodes agreed to put the Ring of Honor title on the line against a non-contracted opponent from another rival television program. But he does it. He comes out, and for a moment it actually looked like the Mac was going to take the title. There was some debauchery in there, some rule breaking, and Cody Rhodes walks out retaining the Ring of Honor World Championship. But relatively historic moment, that the Ring of Honor title being defended outside of Ring of Honor, not counting New Japan Pro Wrestling. Very cool spot. In news coming out of Impact Wrestling, Madison Rayne. If you are a fan of the Knockouts division, Madison Rayne is really a legend in the TNA Knockouts division. She's held the women's championship on more than one occasion. She was part of the Beautiful People, teamed with Velvet Sky, Angelina Love. Really made a huge impact. She has apparently parted ways with Impact Wrestling, which I find curious. She has not wrestled since the first or second week or so of January, where she lost to Angelina Love in her return to the company, and she hasn't wrestled since, but she's been working in the back as like a creative person, a consultant, an agent of sorts, and now apparently she is gone. Her profile's been removed from the women's Knockouts division. She's been removed from the alumni division, and what I find curious about it is her real life husband is Josh Matthews, the announcer, who's embroiled in this huge feud right now with Scott Steiner and Joseph Park, aka Abyss, and all that. So I'm a little surprised that after her husband has this big issue with Jeremy Borash and all this crazy stuff going in the Slammiversary, that she would be eliminated from the company. Now, what I really would love to see happen here is for Madison Rayne to be included in the Mae Young Classic, because WWE really needs to put somebody that somebody can identify with in that tournament, because right now there's very little. There's not a lot to watch in that tournament. At least when they did the Cruiserweight Classic, they had people like Kota Ibushi, they had TJ Perkins, they had people that if you're a huge wrestling fan, you could identify with because you've seen them wrestle in a variety of locations. But this women's tournament, there's almost nobody on the card that anybody's heard of. You may have heard their name from like scant appearances on the news feeds, but most people haven't seen these people wrestle. Some of them haven't wrestled. They've been training to wrestle, but they haven't wrestled. So I would love to see Madison Rayne pop up in the Mae Young Classic. Make sure you're calling in and leaving your questions and comments on the Sound Off line, 267-642-1160. With that being said, I've got a question here from the Real Deal T-Money, who is asking if Finn Balor is going to suffer the same fate as Austin Aries in WWE. I am assuming that he's talking about being pigeonholed into the cruiserweights. I'm going to say no, I don't think so, just because he hasn't been a cruiserweight yet. That doesn't mean they won't do that to him at some point. He and Cass are kind of in a similar situation where they're in a role, and you're just almost waiting for WWE to start burying them for absolutely no apparent reason. The Austin Aries thing being stuck in as a cruiserweight, he never had a main roster heavyweight run. At least Finn Balor, he won the Universal title, his first major program on the main roster before he got hurt after SummerSlam. But so in that regard, I don't think he'll ever get pigeonholed like that, because he has had main roster experience and been really good at it. But I am concerned. There was news this week that the planned match to have Finn Balor challenge Brock Lesnar at some point, that's off. I've seen that on multiple sites this week. That's a sin. That's ridiculous. The guy never lost the Universal title, but he's never had a rematch for it either. Like, at some point, the booking has to make sense. I don't want to hear, we were talking earlier about Brock Lesnar being booked on a third pay-per-view, and that my theory is that he's doing that so he can get a rematch because he's going to lose the championship at SummerSlam. If that's the case, every person who loses the championship should get a rematch. How do you do that if you never give this guy a shot? Now, there are some people who theorize that if Roman Reigns is the one to take the championship from Brock Lesnar, that you can make the argument that Finn Balor has beaten Roman Reigns before and that they should have a championship match, and that would be like a coup to have, akin to him getting his rematch. I don't agree. I think that Roman Reigns, they've got one win apiece. There's actually have had 2 matches. Each one has won one of them. But I think Roman Reigns is so much the golden child right now. I don't see any way for him to really crack into that real world title picture over Roman Reigns. If Braun Strowman is the one who takes the title, which I can't imagine they would give him the championship yet. I'm okay with him getting it, just not yet. But if he wins the title, there's no way they're going to put Finn Balor against Braun Strowman and give him a championship opportunity there. Because can you imagine? It's like watching like a giant elk standing side by side with like a newborn, deer, Bambi standing on the sideline. Like that, the size differential would just be ridiculous. So, whatever. By the way, the Sound Off line is going to close tonight around 9:50. You have 13 minutes by my calculation to chime into the Sound Off line if you have anything you want to throw into the show. I'm always willing to hear those things. I do have another comment here from Santa's Little Helper 1999, who says that it's weird how WWE ignores TNA but then wants to have Dixie Carter on their show. That is true. It's another topic we were going to talk about a little bit later, but we'll get to it now. Actually, I'm just going to keep going through the news because that's a big deal. But Dixie Carter, for those who have not heard yet, is going to be appearing this Monday night on Raw. Or I shouldn't say on Raw, after Raw, on the network. Dixie Carter is going to be on WWE 24, where they're going to be doing a documentary on Kurt Angle, and they're bringing the former head of Impact Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling, to WWE television. I know that there have been times in the past where Stephanie McMahon and Dixie Carter have actually conversed on Twitter. They've gotten to meet each other and things like that, and they've been very cordial. So it'll be interesting to see how WWE does this. But, and this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this too tonight, in the past, WWE has almost gone out of their way to try not to acknowledge Impact Wrestling as anything. And now all of a sudden, instead of not only are you acknowledging that their existence, you're putting it's the equivalent of Eric Bischoff. You're putting their Eric Bischoff on your show. And the reality is she actually is still part owner. She's out of all her duties, but she still has a little piece of the company that she owns. It's in her financial benefit, to want Impact Wrestling to do well. But she'll be on the WWE Network Monday night. I'll be tuned in to hear that because I can't wait to hear what she has to say. I know it's going to be about Kurt Angle, but and I'm assuming they're not going to give her a lot of television time. I can't imagine they would, but it'll be cool to see what she does. But yeah, I think Triple H has become such a huge force in the booking of things in WWE. I think he understands that smart fans are out there more than there are fly-by-night fans. And I think he understands that the people who are tuning into the wrestling websites, there's millions and millions of people going to traffic to wrestling websites every day, especially WWE's own website. So they could see that traffic. And if people are going to those websites and they know that, not acknowledging the competition is almost makes you look ignorant. You don't know what's going on in the rest of the wrestling world. So I think it's very much a good thing that they're going to acknowledge Dixie Carter and let her be a part of something. Not that she's worth that much to their program, but I think it's a good thing to have her on there. I want to throw out some news and tidbit about John Cena. John Cena did an interview this week for an Australian outfit, and he was asked about why WWE doesn't acknowledge the historical impact of Chris Benoit on their program. And I'm actually going to read a quote from John Cena because I thought he handled this in such a great way. I myself have always thought, Chris Benoit contributed so much to the business. Here's the thing. No one will ever justify what he did in the last days of his life. That is not at issue. What I look at is if you are, pick a talent. There's a lot of talents who wrestled for WWE at one point, and now they get royalty checks whenever they appear on WWE Network or a pay-per-view or an opening to Raw or something like that. Chris Benoit has family. He has a son who's been at several WWE shows. And those families, typically if a wrestler passes away, those royalty checks go to their estate and to the people who they left behind. Chris Benoit isn't doing that because he's not being shown on anything because they try to eliminate him from history. My personal opinion, I'm not telling you to put his face all over anything, but his matches should be included in everything. Everything that he ever did. He should be listed, as a former world champion. His greatest matches and things like that should be viewable. You know why? So that his family members who did not obviously partake in any of the craziness that went on at the end of his life can still benefit from the legacy of what we can appreciate about the talent. Now, here's what John Cena had to say. He said, "It's a very difficult question, and I'll answer it like this. Oftentimes, we get caught up in a person's ability and their performance, and it transcends WWE. This is a problem in sport. It's also a problem in entertainment. People will do bad things, but if they are good at what they do, sometimes those things are overlooked. I don't believe in that. I believe you should take ownership for your actions. All of them, not just the ones that are performed in front of an audience. I think our company's stance on the entire situation set a precedent for athletics and a precedent for entertaining of taking ownership for your actions. I think that is about as classy and as professional a quote as any person has given from WWE's side about Chris Benoit. And I respect his opinion highly, and I completely understand. I'm not asking for people to come out and be like, hey, this week on the WWE Network, here's this match, Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero. I don't need all that. Just put his matches in the shows where they were originally. They deserve to be there. Fans deserve to be able to watch it. If Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho have match of the year quality matches, if you're a Jericho fan, you want to see that. Not because Chris Benoit's in it, but because you're a Jericho fan. People should be able to see those matches. They should be able to see anything about Chris Benoit. And that's not celebrating Chris Benoit. It's celebrating professional wrestling, the greatest matches in history. And it's actually, because of the way things have progressed, you still are honoring the wishes of those who don't want to glorify such a horrible incident. We spoke only about a week ago about whether or not, I think somebody asked a question last week, whether or not WWE was going to add any premium female talents to the Mae Young Classic. Now, I am not going to report that they are, because I haven't heard that. However, somebody new is going to be involved. Medusa, also known as Alundra Blaze in WWE, has been added to I don't want to say the pay-per-view, the episodes. We're not clear on what her role will be, but for me, this is a beautiful situation because Medusa, after throwing the Women's Championship title in the trash on Nitro, has never had an opportunity to come back to WWE and really be welcomed with open arms. I know they gave her to the Hall of Fame induction. That was a beautiful thing, but she deserved to be there. But this is the first time she's going to come in and do something of this nature. She did a Legends with JBL episode where she kind of told a lot of her side, but you could tell there was still some hostility and some tension there. I'm hoping this is a way to kind of thaw the ice on the relationship with WWE and really allow Medusa to contribute to a business that she was so influential in. I'm going to throw out some independent news. I know I don't do enough of that. I really wish I got more into the independent stuff, unless you count Ring of Honor and stuff like that. But Chuck Taylor, for those who don't know who Chuck Taylor is, he is a wrestler who wrestles for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and various independents around the country. And it has been a big week for him. Chuck Taylor, last night, after 489 days as Pro Wrestling Guerrilla World Heavyweight Champion, Jack Sabre Jr. lost the PWG World Championship to Chuck Taylor. Chuck Taylor has been working at this for 9 years and never won the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Championship. Congratulations go out to Chuck Taylor. He is a great independent talent. For those of you who have never seen him wrestle, look up some of his matches. He's fantastic. And if you are not a PWG fan, they put on a great tournament every year. Best of Los Angeles tournament, which is coming up shortly, actually. Great tag team wrestling, great singles wrestling. It's a launching pad promotion for a lot of talents. The Young Bucks have been there. It's almost like a who's who. Adam Cole, people like that. So check out Pro Wrestling Guerrilla if you have not in the past, and check out Chuck Taylor, the new champion. If you could find the match from last night, that would be even more awesome. NWO. Happy 21st anniversary of the formation of the New World Order. So 21 years ago at Bash at the Beach, You've got the match with Hall and Nash, the Outsiders, taking on Sting, Lex Luger, and Randy Savage. I've never understood why Ric Flair wasn't in that match of some kind. I guess maybe he could have been teased as a third guy or something of that nature. The storyline was that they actually wanted Sting to be the third member of the NWO for the longest time, and then they switched it and made it Hulk Hogan. I'll never forget watching him come out. And look, you can always see when somebody screws something up, but no one has ever screwed up a more important angle than Bobby Heenan the night that the NWO was formed. For those who don't remember, the NWO, Hall and Nash are in the ring. They're facing, they got Lex Luger's outside the ring. Sting is outside the ring. They're both knocked out. You've got Randy Savage in the ring, and they're double teaming Randy Savage. And as that happens, the fans come alive. Here comes Hulk Hogan, who had actually been off television for a few weeks, maybe a month and a half or so. He comes walking to the ring, and Dusty Rhodes is on commentary. Tony Schiavone's on commentary. They're like, here he comes, and they're like celebrating. Hulk Hogan's on his way to the ring wearing the red and yellow, and he's going to come and defend WCW. And Bobby Heenan, the infinite genius that he is, he goes, but whose side is he on? As soon as Bobby Heenan said that, anybody who hadn't already figured it out knew what was happening. And I remember Dusty Rhodes going, yeah, what are you talking about? And that's when he drops the leg on Randy Savage and turns heel for the first time since the 70s and early 80s and forms the NWO. But yeah, thanks to Bobby Heenan totally screwing up that angle for me. As a kid at the time, it was 1996. I mean, God, I was a kid. I was 20 years old. Dear Lord. But, you could see what was happening as soon as Bobby said that. You kind of had the iffiness about it as soon as he walked out. But, yeah, congratulations to the NWO. 21 years since that insanely important, crazy, critical moment. That is actually, in my opinion, what really launched the Monday Night Wars to the next stratosphere. Some other news of the day, Velvet Sky. I mentioned her earlier when we were talking about Madison Rayne. If you have never seen Velvet Sky wrestle, she is one of the best female talents in the history of this business. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree. She is now an item with Bubba Ray Dudley. She was a knockout for a long, long time, two-time knockouts champion. She was tag team partners in The Beautiful People with Angelina Love, and for a while there, Madison Rayne. She announced earlier in the week that she was leaving professional wrestling. Somebody reported that as she was retiring. Well, she clarified she's not retiring. She's going to be going back to college, get her degree, but that she's still going to show up at the conventions and guest appearances and speaking engagements and things of that nature. Again, it's somebody who WWE should have gone after hardcore for the Mae Young Classic. I don't think it would have taken that much to get her to go into the Mae Young Classic just to be a major name in that pay-per-view and to have a WWE moment. She deserves that at once in her career, and now it looks like it's going to be harder to do because of her major career change here. So congratulations to her. She had a 10-year wonderful career. She started in 2006. She stopped wrestling for Impact Wrestling back in, I want to say, January-ish. And now, she's pursuing other ventures. But I really hope she finds a way to get into a WWE ring at some point. She would be the perfect person to put in there with somebody like Alexa Bliss. Because she's got all the attitude that Bliss has, but on the babyface side of things. Bobby Lashley, another piece of news that kind of blows my mind and frustrates me all at the same time. Bobby Lashley, for those who don't know, he's 41 years old. He just lost the Impact Wrestling Championship to Alberto El Patron, and he is in Impact Wrestling has booked him as one of their really virtually unstoppable beasts. I mean, for the better part of 3-4 years now, he's been at the top of the food chain, and the issue is that he has also been competing for Bellator Mixed Martial Arts, and he's been very successful. And it's to the point now where I'm actually getting frustrated every time I turn on a Bellator pay-per-view and I don't hear that Bobby Lashley's getting a shot at their heavyweight championship. He deserves it at this point. But for whatever reason, he hasn't gotten that break. And now his trainers for his mixed martial arts career are encouraging him that he should leave professional wrestling completely and focus whatever time he has left. And I mean, he can't be doing this forever. He should focus his energies on his mixed martial arts career and give up professional wrestling. I understand it. I respect it if that's what he does. Here's my issue. He left WWE on questionable terms. There were some conversations about potential racism in the locker room. He had some issues with various backstage producers. I won't mention anyone's name, especially not if they were a Freebird. And not just he, but his wife as well. And so they ended up leaving WWE. Now, they, of course, have made a great run for him here in Impact Wrestling on 2 separate occasions. But he obviously has never had another WrestleMania moment. Remember, he's the guy who represented Donald Trump at WrestleMania against Umaga, who was representing Vince McMahon when they shaved McMahon bald. He really should have had so many more big, big moments in the world of professional wrestling, and he hasn't because of the way he was booked at the end of his tenure in WWE, and it's really a shame. I still would give anything to see a Bobby Lashley versus Batista, or a Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar, or a Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns, or something of that nature. Bobby Lashley versus John Cena. Happened once, I'd like to see it again. So there's a lot of great opportunities there if he were to come back to WWE, and if they are really pushing him hard to give up wrestling, look, when you're the Impact Wrestling World Champion, you have obligations. You can't just, give up your training for mixed martial arts to go on tour and all that stuff. But now he doesn't have the world title anymore. Now his schedule will be more lax, and he'll be able to do more things. The issue is does he really want to walk away from professional wrestling at this point? And I'm afraid that he may actually do just that. Bobby Lashley was into combat sports before he got into wrestling. He's a legitimate tough guy. So it's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him go that route. But in the end, I'm hoping that does not turn out to be the case. I want to get going with the Great Balls of Fire. The betting odds have been established, the final odds. So if you're one of those people, you want to, call up the bookie or make an online bet in Vegas, I will give you the odds right now, so you can get an idea who's favored to win what. And then as we go through it, I'll give you the odds, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. Who I think is going to beat who. So we're going to start off with the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship match. Right now, the favorites are Sheamus and Cesaro. They are 1-25 favorite to retain over Matt and Jeff Hardy. I understand that if you are planning on separating the Hardys and having them go singles, I completely would agree with the Cesaro and Sheamus retaining here. My issue is this. We reported on a previous podcast episode, Sheamus is scheduled to leave for a period of time to film a movie. This would be a good time to take the Tag Team Championship off of Sheamus and Cesaro, and that way Matt and Jeff Hardy can carry the tag titles until you decide for sure what you want to do with them. Sheamus can go off and do his movie without impacting the defense of the tag titles, and Cesaro could finally get a singles opportunity that fans have been dying for the longest time. So I'm kind of hoping that the Hardys win this one. So I'm going to call it for Matt and Jeff Hardy. I think that will be a title change. I can't imagine why they're having another match. Sheamus and Cesaro won the rematch, 2 out of 3 falls, all that kind of stuff, cage match. So it's time, I think, for this feud to be over and for Sheamus to go away to do his film. So I'm picking the Hardys to take the Raw Tag Team Championship. For the Intercontinental Championship, Dean Ambrose is going to challenge Miz. Miz is the favorite to retain, a 1-14 odds winner to retain. Dean Ambrose is 11-2 underdog. So in this situation, I actually think the Miz will retain as well. I think we'll see interference from Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. Dean Ambrose at a pay-per-view, I cannot see a scenario where he's going to get any help from the Hardys because they will have just had their match. I think that their match will come before this one. And so I think Dean Ambrose, the numbers are going to get the better of him, and I actually agree with the odds makers that Miz will retain the Intercontinental Championship over Dean Ambrose. Big Cass is right now favored to beat Enzo Amore. Cass is a 1-14 favorite versus Enzo Amore, who's 11-2. Here's the thing. I think Big Cass has to win this because he is who he is, and he is 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that. But you gotta wonder, WWE is seeing how people are rallying behind Enzo Amore. A loss to Cass really doesn't hurt Enzo all that much because people don't expect him to win anyways. What I really hope happens here is that Big Cass does not win clean. I hope somebody interferes on Cass's behalf that leads to the next feud for Enzo. I know this is only their first match. I'm okay with that. I don't need to see 15 matches with Cass versus Enzo on Raw for the next 3 months. I don't need to see that, which is what they've been doing lately. No, get the Big Cass thing over with quickly and let Enzo move into something that is more his size, his pace, his speed, his skill level, and let Cass go continue the Cass experiment with the Big Show. I actually agree. Big Cass has to win this match. So that's just my opinion. Big Cass, I agree with the odds makers, will defeat Enzo Amore. We have Seth Rollins, the favorite, to defeat Bray Wyatt. Seth Rollins is a 1-7 favorite, whereas Bray Wyatt is a 4-1 underdog. I fully expect that to hold true. Seth Rollins has taken plenty of losses lately. The issue is Bray Wyatt kind of has his whole WWE career. At some point, Bray Wyatt's not going to be a believable world champion contender ever again. Because what? He wins one world championship in a elimination chamber where everybody's exhausted and he gets the right pin at the right moment. That doesn't really say much for his character. I have an issue with him always losing. Seth Rollins is the architect. He beat Triple H and all that kind of stuff. He's got tons of momentum. The thing I think here, though, and the reason that I agree with it, they're going to make Seth Rollins win this, is I think Seth Rollins is going to be the challenger for the Universal Championship at Survivor Series. So for those of you who like to hold me to my predictions, Seth Rollins will challenge for the Universal title at Survivor Series. Whether it's Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, doesn't matter. Seth Rollins will challenge Brock Lesnar. And I'll get to the prediction of who he'll, or whoever the world champion is. And we'll get to more of that later. But I actually agree. I think Seth Rollins goes over here so that he can begin his build to being the challenger for the world championship. In the women's championship match, right now, Alexa Bliss is a 1-18 favorite to retain over Sasha Banks, who's a 6-1 underdog. You know, I'm ready for Alexa Bliss to not have this championship. I think Sasha Banks having the championship... All right, here comes my fantasy booking. The odds makers say Alexa Bliss is winning. If she does, where does she go from there? Like, for real. Let's talk about that. When they did their tour over in Japan, Alexa Bliss came out, as did Asuka, and they like held up their championships and went nose to nose. That's awesome, but Asuka's not on the roster. And even if she comes to the roster, putting her right into a world championship mix is kind of screwed up. So I don't see that happening. However, what I would like to see happen is I would love to see Sasha Banks upset Alexa Bliss and take this championship and have Bayley turn on Sasha Banks. We've talked a lot on this podcast about how Bayley needs to freshen up her character. This would be the opportunity. Alexa Bliss loses the women's championship to Sasha Banks, and Bayley comes out to congratulate her and turns on her, and Bayley shows the all-new ruthless side to her character. I know she didn't want to do that because she wants to be nice to all the kids there and all that kind of stuff, but the reality is those kids are going to come back to you the minute you turn back into being a babyface later on. Later in the year, next year, whatever you got to do. You could have an amazing heel turn and then come out and be the superstar that you want to be for your kids next year. All right. For now, you could bring some excitement to that women's division. Alexa Bliss, I think she's phenomenal. She's really talented, but I really don't feel like Alexa Bliss is fresh anymore. We need something new. And I know Sasha Banks has been champion before, but Bayley versus Sasha never really happened. Not a real feud. That's what people, I think, want to see. I think that would be the best match they could book. In the ambulance match, the one that's gotten so much conversation, Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Okay, so 2 days ago, Roman Reigns, the favorite. A day ago, Braun Strowman, the favorite. Today, Braun Strowman is the favorite to beat Roman Reigns. Braun Strowman is a 1-8 favorite against Roman Reigns, who's a 9-2 underdog. And I agree. Braun Strowman will defeat Roman Reigns in the ambulance match, and here is why. Braun Strowman is going to challenge for the Universal title, no matter who has it. But here's the thing. Roman Reigns, in my opinion, the whole reason they're doing this John Cena is a free agent thing is to face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. I want to see Roman Reigns take on John Cena at SummerSlam. Braun Strowman challenge for the Universal title. Braun Strowman will lose that Universal Championship opportunity. Just my opinion. And Roman Reigns can defeat John Cena and really try to grab... I mean, think about it. Everybody hates Roman and everybody hates Cena, so they got to cheer for somebody. So this may be a way to get some excitement back in the Cena brand and bring some of that heelish feel to Roman Reigns. Might be an interesting booking scenario. So, as I said, I have Braun Strowman winning this match. Now, the main event. Brock Lesnar. Odds-on favorite to win, 1-25. For those who don't know what these numbers mean, the first digit is how many dollars you win. The second digit is how many you have to bet to win that. So, a 1-25 favorite means you have to bet $25 to win $1. Think about how many dollars you got to put up front to be able to get any sizable amount of money for Brock Lesnar winning. Brock Lesnar is the odds-on favorite to defeat Samoa Joe and retain the Universal Championship in the main event. Samoa Joe is a 17-2 underdog, meaning if you bet $2 and you win, you get $17. See how different the odds are? And for me, I hate it. I hate it. I want Samoa Joe to win this because I'm sick and tired of not seeing a Universal title on Raw every single week. It's the World Championship. I'm sick and tired of seeing the Intercontinental title being the most important title on Raw. We need to have a world champion on Raw every single week. That is what brings people in. Ratings have been down. You know why? Because there's no reason to tune in when there's no excitement over the world title. You've got all these world champion caliber players and nobody walking around with a world championship. Samoa Joe needs to win this match so we can have a legitimate champion on Raw and then put him in the ring with Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. Then it doesn't really matter who wins that match because whoever it is going to face Seth Rollins at Survivor Series anyways, and I expect Seth Rollins to potentially win that match. So, that being said, the winner of the main event at Great Balls of Fire, my prediction, I'm sticking with the odds makers, Brock Lesnar retains here. So, Brock Lesnar is going to go on to face Braun Strowman at SummerSlam. He's going to defeat Braun Strowman. He's going to go on to face Seth Rollins at Survivor Series. He's going to defeat Seth Rollins. He's going to go on to face other people all throughout the year. Bray Wyatt at some point. He'll probably face Finn Balor just to get it out of the way at some point. But here's the thing. Vince McMahon is one of those guys that once he gets something set in stone and in his mind, he's not going to change his mind. And he wants, more than anything, he wants to see Brock Lesnar lose that Universal title at WrestleMania to Roman Reigns. He's not going to change his modus operandi. Vince McMahon has done the same thing his entire career. So, that being said, I fully expect that Brock Lesnar retains that championship all the way to WrestleMania, where he'll lose it to Roman Reigns. So for those of us like myself who only minutes ago said how we need a world champion on Raw, it's not going to happen. It's just not. They're so high on this Brock Roman Reigns thing. There was word that they were going to move that up to SummerSlam. I don't see that happening because Vince will probably not let that happen. He's put too much time, effort, and energy into this Brock Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34 thing. He's not going to change that at this point. Just my opinion. So, before we go tonight, make sure if you are listening to this podcast and you are not yet a Patreon member, we would love to have you be a part of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family. Go to patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Feel free to contribute whatever you can. We'd like to grow this podcast and use those donations to try to make that happen. $1 gets you into our episodes as a shout out as our Patreon member, a Pro Wrestling Podcast family member. We would love to do that. If you are one of our $50 a month contributors, we will get you on one of these episodes of Going Live at 9:05 as a guest co-host with me, and so everybody can hear the two of us do our banter. If you want to bring some friends with you, get you all on the phone, and we'll do it to get together, and we'll do a podcast together. That's all the time I have for this episode. Please check back with us in the next episode. Probably going to be on Monday, not Tuesday this week, because we got a pay-per-view to talk about. The aftermath of Great Balls of Fire. Check back with us for that in the next episode. We'll run down all the news and rumors that happen between then and now. Special thanks as always. All of our music and sound effects are generously provided to us by bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music. They give us these great intros and exit sounds. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.frolifeplanning.com/fropodcast and click the link on the right hand side of the page to grab your copy today. And to AlleyRepair.com, contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you get a chance, shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com if you are looking to get into college, a university, or you just want to get a new career, get something lined up for the future. We can do that with you. Hands-on. We'll do free assessments over the phone right now, all month of July, to help people get ready for the new college school year and to help people find that new career path. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to tsjsports.com/WWE for the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. And if you are a true diehard wrestling fan, And you are also on Facebook. Check out this great game, Wrestler Unstoppable. It is a fully customizable wrestling game on Facebook. You play for free, and you can compete in wrestling matches that are turn-based, compete against other wrestlers, join companies, sign contracts, get into tournaments, post scenes, trash talk. Everything that happens in the world of professional wrestling happens in Wrestler Unstoppable. And when you get there, check out Universal Wrestling Evolution, my company. I'll bring you on board with my group as soon as you get in there. Until next episode, everybody, take care and have a great night.